A Sarasota County official just drove into the preserve, but no one else has been allowed inside or out. We do know that the medical examiner is now on scene after what is believed to be human remains were found inside this vast environmental park. Now, the FBI just held a press conference and they confirmed those partial human remains were found near items belonging to Brian Laundrie, a backpack and a notebook. Now, let's take a look here at the scene. This is where the press conference just happened. These are Northport police vehicles blocking off the entrance. You can see they have some crime scene tape up, police line where you cannot enter. Let's go ahead and listen to what the FBI had to say at that press conference. While we can't see what's going on inside this investigation, we know that the FBI's evidence response team is processing the scene, looking at those items that were found with the human remains. And we know that they were found in an area that was previously covered by water. So a big question on a lot of people's minds is, what are the condition of these remains? That's going to tell us a lot about when we can expect an identification, whether this is Brian Laundrie or not, which of course will completely change this investigation as the sole person of interest that we know so far in Gabby Petito's disappearance. Again, the FBI did not take questions, so a lot of questions remain, but we will be out here watching the investigation. We're watching crews drive in and out of the park, and of course we'll keep you live throughout the evening here on NBC2. I'm live in Northport. Brenna Weick, NBC2. Right now, Northport police are blocking the entrance of the Myakkahatchee Creek Preserve, so no one is able to get inside and see exactly what is happening as the FBI processes that scene. We do know they have an evidence response team there. And a new piece of information we just found out during that press conference is that the FBI found a backpack and notebook that belonged to Brian Laundrie. That's where they found those human remains. So again, we don't have confirmation that the body found is Brian Laundrie's, but it was found right next to his belongings. And again, these items were also found in an area that was once covered by water. So this search area that's been covered for more than a month now may have been covered by water, and now this dry weather we're seeing is revealing more of what everybody wants to know, which is, where is Brian Laundrie? Again, the FBI did not take any questions during that press conference, so we were not able to find out the condition of those remains, but that's going to be a big factor when we find out how long it will take them to identify. I spoke to an expert, as you mentioned earlier, Nate, who said if the remains are in decent condition, they may be able to do rapid DNA testing, which could give us answers in 24 hours. But if they are not in great condition, if they are skeletal remains or they've been severely degraded, DNA is going to be more difficult to get. So they may have to wait for dental records to confirm the identity of the remains that were found. A lot of questions that still need to be answered, but as you can see behind me, Northport police are working with the FBI and the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office. We know the Pasco County Sheriff's Office has human remains canines on the scene as well. So it's a team effort, and it's hopefully going to lead to answers to those questions so many people have been asking for so long. Nate, Kyla?
Let's go to NBC2 anchor Brenna Weick at the entrance to the reserve with brand new information from the Laundrie's family attorney that really helps explain why they made this big discovery today. Brenna?
Peter, the Laundrie family attorney tells me that Brian Laundrie's parents wanted to take opportunity of the fact that today the park reopened to the public. As you remember, the park had been closed for more than a month while the FBI and law enforcement agencies searched for Laundrie. Take a look here. The park has now closed down again after today's discovery. Steve Bertolino says he notified Northport police of the parents' plan, and detectives decided to meet them there. Brian's dad found a dry bag off the trail. Law enforcement escorting the parents found a backpack and those remains, those partial human remains. Here's Bertolino tonight on the phone with CNN's Chris Cuomo.
Why didn't the parents ask to go sooner during all these agonizing weeks?
Well, the parents had assumed that the experts, the FBI, and all the tracking teams that they had would be able to locate Brian based upon the information that we had provided them to the specific areas and trails in the park that Brian liked to visit. The park had been closed to the public. There was really no other reason for the Laundries to go search anywhere else.
Bernalino says as soon as detectives found the human remains, they asked Brian's parents to leave the park. That's where this all started today, but since then we have learned quite a bit. NBC2's Megan Myers was at that press conference with the FBI tonight. She brings us the latest. Right, and I talked to an expert at FGCU today, Dr. Dave Thomas. He tells me this could take anywhere from 24 hours to several days or weeks. That all depends on the condition of those remains that were found tonight.
The question on everyone's mind right now is, what does this mean for the investigation? If this is Brian Laundrie's remains, where do we go from here?
I don't know if you can go anywhere.
Tonight, answers into how Gabby Petito died seem further than ever.
So we may never know. We may never know because you don't have him there to kind of tell you why he did what he did or if he did it.
As human remains were found with a backpack and notebook belonging to the only named person of interest in her homicide, Brian Laundrie.
What would the likelihood be of the body being in good enough condition that they can get that rapid DNA?
You know what? It depends on when he died. If that, how long ago that body's been sitting there.
While we don't know how long the remains have been there,
the DNA becomes relatively fragile after being exposed to the elements. So it just depends on what they have to work with.
We know the elements in the Carlton Reserve pose a serious challenge.
Our Florida heat and our temperature, the way we have things, just absolutely positively destroys bodies over a pretty quick period of time. Not to mention whatever the animals get to.
For now, Dr. Thomas urges patience.
In this instance, you just got to give them time because you want to make sure that all those pieces of this puzzle are actually put together and they fit.
And trust that investigators know enough to close the case with or without Brian Laundrie.
What we don't know is what the FBI is holding back.
What we don't know is, of course, what the whole world wants to know. Who do those remains belong to? And like you heard Dr. Thomas say, it really depends on the condition, what they were found in. Now, the FBI did mention earlier that the remains were found in an area that was previously covered by water. This reserve is 24,000 acres. It is vast. And of course, that water is going to make a huge difference when it comes to the condition of those remains and if DNA is going to be able to be used. So let's bring in our chief meteorologist, Allison Ray. She's going to give us a little bit of analysis on what the weather in this area has been like in the past few months that they've been searching and what it means for the investigation. Allison. And Gage, we know that closure could take time as investigators piece together what they found here in the reserve today to try to figure out what happened so many miles away in Wyoming. Now, Gabby's parents and step-parents have really put together a united front throughout this process, recently traveling together to where Gabby's body was found. They got tattoos in her memory and held a joint press conference where they talked about how they've gotten through this nightmare together.
There's ups and downs, days that were full of pain and grief, sometimes angry, but you stop, you take a breath, remember Gabby and all the great times we had with her, and all the good memories, and all the good things we want to do in her name in the future, and that's what picks you up, that's what carries you through.
As heartbreaking as it is, for now, Gabby's family and the world will have to wait for closure as this investigation continues. Peter? NBC2 will be first to alert you of any updates from the FBI through the NBC2 News app. It is free to download for the latest breaking news right in the palm of your hand. Now, back out here live, it is quiet tonight. Just one Northport police officer blocking the entrance of the park, but we know this search is not over. We saw law enforcement agencies bringing in lights and equipment to continue their investigation throughout the night. So make sure you have that news app handy and we will let you know if anything changes here in Northport. For now, I'm live in Northport. Peter, back to you in the studio.